Now we're going to combine everything we know with one new thing, and that new thing is binding materials to USD object. Here's how this is laid out. This is from the PowerPoint again. What you've got here is what should be pretty familiar by now in terms of building USD. So we have a prim, one prim called monster, that has children prims in the geometries folder, body, eyes, and sweater. So that's what that looks like. Then you've got the materials for the monster. So blue, red, texture blue, texture red, and black. We can combine all of these to make two variants of the monster using this material set. Why don't we go ahead and do that? So bringing materials in through USD to a game engine is cool, is fine. As far as I know, it works. But it should be said that like most of the game engines you're going to be working in, like Unreal and Unity and Godot and all of that sort of stuff, they are better at putting materials on things than USD is. Not to say you shouldn't use it, not to say you shouldn't buy materials. This is important to know, and it will work. But what I've tried to get through across this whole course is that sometimes game engines know what they're doing better than you do, and certainly more optimized. So let's just go through this, and that'll be it for this week. We will talk a little bit about how the output compound we're building works. But anyway, here we go. Here we are again with our nice blank empty new Bifrost. All good. That's great. And we're going to do again what we did just before. We're going to use a file that we're supplying for you. So the very first thing we're going to do is open a layer. This is how we're loading in a USD file that we already have. And this is supplied, so we're going to browse to it, go to the USD files folder. We want monster no material. And again, until you do things like define reference, like this, and then our layer goes into here, then we're just going to make a scope geometry. And a scope geometry is pretty much, we're just going to make a scope prim. And a scope prim is pretty much the most basic prim. So find USD prim. You can think of it as almost nothing more than a reference definition to go in there. And just so we can see what's going on, I'm going to create a stage like this. And I'm going to give this somewhere to go live. And again, put it wherever you like. Just going to call it sweater.usd. And then we'll just add this to the stage. Oops, that's... So we'll add it to the stage. So I'll put the stage in there. Pop our scope in here. Let's give that scope a name. This is our monster scope. This is going to be the main thing that holds everything. We'll give the references a name as well. Let's just call that geometries. And then whatever's coming in from the layer into the reference will provide its own hierarchy. So let's hook this up, see what we've got. We'll grab the output and bring that up here. Turns out I shouldn't have given that a name. And here we go. So this is the USD file that we loaded here. Monster no materials. And what we're going to do is set up and bind some materials to it. So before we do anything else, let's actually set up the material. So this is going to be our geometries. And if you have a look in your hierarchy here, you've got monster, body, eyes, and sweater, right? So we're going to call this one geometries. So we're back after a little crash. So you can see here where we've got a USD proxy, there's our stage, and now we have a scope called geometries. Now, scope is the simplest of the prim types. You use it when you don't need to transform anything. So materials is a good way to do it. And we're not transforming this guy. And if we wanted to, we're going to put in an X form after the scope. So define USD prim, pop this into the children. We'll give this a name. This is going to be monster. And then we'll hook that up to the stage instead. So now you can see I've got a group monster that I can transform if I want to. And underneath that, I have a scope holding all of my geometries. And really, because you can't transform a scope, that's all it's doing. It's holding my geometries for me. And we're going to do another one. We're going to do another scope here. It's just a normal USD prim like we've been defining all day. We change this over to scope and let's call this materials. Okay. So this is also going to go into our monster prim here. And you can see now you've got geometries and materials. let's go ahead and start making some materials. So define USD preview surface, and we're going to make this one, we'll just use blue, and we will call this blue, just for fun. Okay. And let's hook that up to the children of the scope. So this is just quite literally a preview surface, not attached to anything right now, but you can see there's a material in the materials scope now. And we'll just copy and paste that. And this time we'll make it black. And we'll call it, because we're super original, we'll call it black. There you go. You may call me Captain Obvious if you like. And then one more time, find USD preview surface, but this one's going to be a little different. So in the assets we've given you with the video, you're going to see these two JPEG files here. I'm just going to load the blue and white one. And so all this is doing is it's loading a texture file from disk into here for me. And we'll call this one textile blue, just like the PowerPoint. Hook that up. And there you can see we've got materials. We have blue, black, and textile. Those are the three materials we've just created. What now? So it's really good to have materials, but it's no good if we can't see them on the object. So that pretty much leads to where we're going. And that is, how do we bind materials to a USD object? Let's start with this body. So after we've added all of these to the stage, I'm going to take this, bind material. So we're just binding a USD material. It's doing exactly what you think it is and exactly what it says it does. And it wants two things out of you. Really, it wants the prim path and the material path. You've also got collections if you want, a binding name, what your purpose for the material is. It could be a preview or a render purpose, and how strong is the material. So do you want it to overcome any of the descendants materials, or do you want it to be weaker so the descendants materials overcome it? That's how that works. But for now, we're just going to use the prim path, and our prim path is monster geometry's body. Monster geometry's body. So you can work that out by just reading it and going monster geometry's body. Type that in. You can also go to the attribute editor of the monster geometry's body and look under metadata. And under metadata is the prim path. You can copy that, jump back into Bifrost, and just paste it in there. And then you need to do the same thing for the material. So that would be monster materials blue, like that. And if I've typed all of those out right and gotten everything right, then that is now bound this preview material to this asset, the body asset. And we just keep going. So we do another bind material, copy paste that. We'll daisy chain this up, like so. And in this case, we're going to change body to eyes. See, they went blue, boom, boom. So we want that to be black. There we go. One more time. And we want sweater this time, because we're changing this guy, the sweater. And if I hook that up, the sweater should go black. There we go. But now we've changed our material to textile blue. And we have to make sure that our viewport is showing textures. So there we go. This is how you assign materials to a USD object. Now you can, this is a fairly clumsy way to do it, especially if you have 4,000 materials to add or that kind of thing. You can also make variant sets out of the materials, which we'll go into in a minute. But before we do that, let's have a look at what this looks like. So we'll just save USD stage right there. We'll give it a name, sweater monster. Maybe spell sweater right. .USDA in case we want to have a look at it. Hit enter. So let's check everything. Our paths are great. Meters per unit, we might want that up at 1, and our up axis is Y. Let's enable that. Now you can see that you can bring textures into Unreal as well. Now, it's still got the textures I think from yesterday. No, it doesn't. So this is loading the textures in from the USD file using relative path. But you can build and texture stuff in Bifrost, so you can apply a texture through USD. But USD allows you to bring in, to bind your materials, just like we did. So we're binding our materials here. So we went through all of that. This has also got the red one, and I'll need to change this. So it's got that. So it will also have it should also have a variant. Or maybe not in this one, but that's okay. That'll be why it doesn't have a variant. Because that's broken. But anyway, I've just set this up without the variants. It has stored the texture position, stored the texture location in the USD file, and you can get textures across from USD, Bifrost-USD, no problem. Now there are also ways to bind Arnold materials. The define preview surface here, it's a pretty simple one. It's not really a full material. It's not a standard surface material or anything like that. But that's something that, like, you can either work out for yourself. How do you get a PBR texture set up inside Maya and bring it across through USD to Unreal? Or I'm sure you'll be able to find some help on the internet about it. But this was really just to show you how to bind materials in Unreal. And that being that's the end of week 8, pretty much. Before we end the lesson for certain, I want to show you something. Let's just use this other Maya I have open. And we'll go to my scenes here. So this is the beginning of a full output system to a game engine USD, via USD, a game engine via USD. It's set up for Unreal because that's what I'm testing with, but it is a way to do it. So what I've done here is I've set up a point instancer, and you put in your instances and your points, an animated mesh, a static mesh, and a strand, an extruded strand. So all of these run through an output module, and that's really simple. And this is how you output anything to USD, is you need a stage and you need things coming into that stage, and they need to be USD objects. So in this case, we are outputting a cylinder, like so, and a strand. So I can go ahead and change that. Let's go up. Let's put the torus out instead. So we'll see that torus is a static mesh. That's what the torus looks like because we're outputting RGBA in the torus. You can have a look in, oops, daisy. We can have a look in here, and you can see that we're outputting a alpha value as well as our point color. Now it's quite easy to just pull that off. I'm in the wrong place. It's quite easy to pull that out. And there you go. So this is only part of a cylinder. So this is outputting a cylinder and a static mesh, but it's a strand that's been extruded. So this is really just putting everything together that we've talked about as we've gone through the course as an output. So we have these kind of things working, and the way that all of them works, and I don't have textures working yet. I don't have anything like that. But I will. And I'll get that. That'll all become part of the output module. So material bindings and things. But really what I wanted to show you is that with the exception of an animated mesh, which you remember, you have to run through this animated stage compound, this iterated loop. So this is the only one that actually outputs a stage. Everything else just outputs the objects that you want to output to USD, to a USD file, and then this output stage handles all of that. And this is the simple part, right? So it adds whatever you're putting into the stage, like so, and then it lets you set the meters per unit. And that's how you output anything from Bifrost to USD using Bifrost-USD. You make a USD material, you get everything you want to have working, like this guy. So he's got his material bindings and all that kind of thing. And I'm just doing, it looks a lot more complicated here, but I'm really just doing the same thing. There's the add to stage. So I'm adding my geometries and my materials which I've set up here, into a transform called monster, which is this one. Just open that out. Inside of the monster, we have a materials scope and a geometry scope. Then I'm just adding it to the stage, and then over in Unreal, I'm loading that stage so that now you've got your object, your mesh, your colors that you've assigned to it. So this has a texture on it. These guys are just showing you the vertex colors, basically. And it's all the same thing. You just output to a stage, you add to a stage. A little, and quite a bit more depth next week, where we'll talk about building a bridge, building USD scenes and things like that. But for now, that's pretty much week 8. We talked about getting meshes across. We talked about variants, stages, what USD is, USD instancing. Who can forget our ever so much fun instanced king here, where his subjects are all crawling around on top of him. We talked about all of that kind of stuff, and next week we'll go into a system like this a bit deeper. I'll show you how to build this next week, basically. And that's about it. So yeah, if you want to do some homework this week, what I'd like you to do is take one of the assets you've made for your final project in Maya, bring it into Bifrost and get it into Unreal through USD rather than FBX or whatever it is that you're using at the moment. All right. As always, it's a workshop, so totally optional. But if you wanted to find out a bit more, that's a good way to do it. All right, cool. I will see you in the next one.